Thanks for organizing this event, and thanks for everybody who's been involved in this, and thank you for coming. I want to begin with a conversation, one of the last I had with my grandmother, Sitti Nasra, when I last visited Gaza in 2021. She was witty and funny. She was a Nakba survivor. She carried our history in her bones, but by then she suffered from dementia and time had begun to blur for her. Let me tell you about the Mukhtar's land, she said, her eyes lighting up. It's like a garden of Jaffa. He grows everything, tomatoes, cucumbers, courgettes, but the real star is the melons. So sweet, they could make your taste buds sing. People from Najd and Bir Saba would set off on a full melon quest just to bring them home on their camels and mules. Then she lowered her voice as if letting me in on a secret. But do you know what else drew them to Hooge beside the melons? Our women, she smiled. Tall, olive-skinned, with green eyes. I used to hear the men from Najd calling out as they arrived, sweet melons, sweet women, sweet melons, sweet women. But now our daughters are marrying outside Hooge, the new generation. They are just not as beautiful. She shook her head. You should marry somebody from Hooge. That was my grandmother, always full of stories, always tying history to the present, as if time was one and a broken thread. In December 2023, in the genocide in Gaza, an Israeli soldier walked into her room and shot her, one bullet in the leg and one bullet in the chest. They came for a bookshop. The Israeli attack on the Palestinian bookshop and arrest of its owners, Mahmoud and Ahmad, this was not a random act of violence. It was a part of something far greater, far darker, a systematic erasure that has been unfolding for decades. Israel does not even acknowledge that a Palestinian nation exists, let alone recognize our culture, our history, our heritage that stretches across centuries, from our stories to our sanctuaries. They have demolished hundreds of schools, universities, libraries, theaters, museums, and culture centers. They have flattened Gaza's institutions of learning and art in this genocide. And it's not collateral damage, it's deliberate. I know this erasure firsthand. In 1991, during the first Intifada, the Israeli army knocked on our door, back in the days when they still knocked. We were in the kitchen when we heard it, loud, aggressive. We did not need to see them to know. The Hebrew voices crackled through their walkie-talkies. My father, usually calm, suddenly bolted from his chair, but he did not run to the door. He ran to the living room. I was just a child, but I remember it clearly. His frantic hands grabbing a book from the coffee table and throwing it behind the wardrobe. It was a book of Ghassan Kanafani, a book of words, a book they feared. Days later, I asked him, why did you hide it? His answer was simple. We cannot let them see it. Even a book, just ink on paper, was something they feared. In school, we were never taught our own history. Imagine that. A nation that is not allowed to know itself. Instead, we studied histories of others. In Gaza, we studied Egyptian history, because to Israel, Palestine was not supposed to exist. But we resisted. After school, we gathered in secret to study Palestinian literature. We recited Mahmoud Darwish, we whispered our own stories to each other, and when the Israeli army raided our classroom, when they flooded the halls with tear gas, when they threatened our teacher, if you teach these children about Palestine, you will never see the light again. We did not stop learning. It wasn't just books. They came for everything that carried our identity. My mother, dressed on a Palestinian thobe, was once stopped by an Israeli soldier. He shouted at her aggressively, "Why not a black skirt and a white scarf?" Even our dance, Dabka, was something we had to hide. We kept the music low, the windows shut. We assigned somebody to stand watch for Israeli jeeps. If they came, we ran. This is not new. This was always their plan, to erase us. And I used to wonder why. Why this relentless need to erase a people? My grandfather once asked the same question as Israeli soldiers arrested my uncle Yusuf. He turned to a general and said, "Why do you do this to us? We welcomed you once. We were neighbors in Houj, my homeland, before you took it, before you renamed it." And the general answered with chilling honesty, "Because we can." But I tell you now, no matter what you can do, you will not erase us. We are not guests in this land. We are not pages you can rip from history. We are deeply rooted, so deep that our roots extend far beyond the ground beneath your feet. To uproot us, you would have to tear apart the very earth you stand on. And so we remain. We write, we teach, we dance, we carry our history in our voices, in our poems, in our steps, and we will never, ever disappear. Thank you.